on herbs in postpartum care. And I just want to give you just some housekeeping for today and tell you about our organization and some things coming up. Um, just to note that National Black Doulas Association focuses on providing Black and Brown families with better experiences with birth and postpartum. We're also equipping Black and Brown birth workers with skills and resources to support families in this birthing place. The purpose of this session is to present impactful information, focus on critical issues and emerging trends and innovative practices. We want to encourage you to be engaged in the comments, ask all the questions in the comments. We'll be able to answer some questions for you, and Aubrey will be able to help you with what she can during this time. We won't be on long, but we want to utilize our time that we have. I want to give a disclaimer that this session is for educational purposes only. Please consult your physician, healthcare provider before using any herbal remedies. We just want you to be safe and make sure that this fits you. Um, right now, we're going to introduce our speaker, Miss Aubrey Sunshine, who is speaking on herbal remedies for postpartum healing. Aubriana Kilbrough, known as Aubrey Sunshine, I hope I said that right.
Yes.
Awesome. Is a proud native of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and is the founder and principal doula of Love and Wisdom, a practice rooted in plant medicine and spirituality to affirm women and girls across womanhood continuum. She has been CAFA trained since 2019 and recently with Mama Tutu
So,
Village. Oh,
so,
Mama Tutu. Thank Village to become a lactation specialist. She serves in both the DMV area and North Carolina. Aubrey's calling and passion to birth work began long before her training, and her favorite part of birth is the sacred moment when moms welcome their babies to the earth. She's a member of National Black Doula Association, and she is an NVDA ambassador. Woo woo. And she values a network of expert doulas and share commitment with birth equity. Along her work with Love and Wisdom, Aubrey is dedicated to wisdom advocacy and balances her birth work with full-time role as philanthropist in the Washington Area Women's Foundation. So I want the audience to give a wonderful welcome, MBDA welcome to Aubrey Sunshine. Thank you so much for being here.
thank you so much, Yolanda, for that robust introduction. And thank you all for joining me today. Whether you are a doula or expecting mother, or you are affiliated some way with the National Black Doula Association, you chose to be here and give me your time, and I really appreciate that. And I'm so excited to jump into conversation today. As Yolanda already mentioned, these are some just overarching ways that you can incorporate herbal remedies and holistic practices into your postpartum care. And so this can be done by postpartum doulas, other birth workers, community birth workers, by family members, or by the birthing person themselves. So before we get started today, I know Yolanda mentioned, this journey to the doula world and doulahood to me that started way before I got into actually carrying out this work. So before I just start throwing information at you today, I do want to take a little bit of time just to share how I got to this space and why this work is deeply important to me. So taking it way back to 2016, I was living in New York at the time, suffering with bad allergies, on this journey to find myself also. So I took a trip to an herbal apothecary, and it was my first time in such a store. And I just remember spending so much time just looking around the walls at all the herbs and talking to the owner, who was a Black woman, who is a Black woman, about all of the just herbal remedies for allergies, for womb health, for postpartum care. It was just so robust. And I just remember in that experience that was kind of like an opening for me. Now, simultaneously, I had already signed up to train with Kappa to become a labor doula. And so, a few weeks after this journey and experience at the apothecary, I went on with my life and I carried on and did the Kappa doula training. It was 2 days. Was trained by a very knowledgeable woman. But I remember when we got started and really discussed like the postpartum period. We talked about some important techniques to use as a doula and ways to support the birthing person, such as, cleaning bottles, assisting with like some type of meal train, or, helping the mom to get comfortable doing some light laundry, just being an assistant to the birth person. We talked a little bit about like healing mechanisms and like maybe like foot scrubs or foot massages, but it was really surface level. So I remember leaving my training fulfilled that I had accomplished this thing that I've always wanted to do, but I just felt like something was missing. And so it just clicked in my head like, hey, you've learned so much about herbs for what they can do for your allergies and for your womb health. And, they helped you to curate this spiritual journey. What if there was a way to go deeper in this postpartum journey with mothers? And this was especially important for me because at the time I did not feel like there was a lot of emphasis on this new transition from motherhood, or motherhood of one to motherhood of two, or being a single young woman going into motherhood, or what it meant to like really transition from being of yourself for yourself to now you have a piece of you that you're sharing with the world, and you become a new person. So just thinking about the ways in which I just felt internally that we needed to go deeper with these women and they deserve for us to go deeper, I'm like, let me research some ways that we can incorporate like herbal remedies and herbal healing to make this postpartum experience a little bit deeper. And so with doing my research, I first learned about a Mexican tradition. Mesoamerican cultures use this. It's called closing the bones. And it was just this practice of utilizing like a rebozo to like squeeze the mom in and just bring back some energy and warmth to her body. She's wrapped up with all of these blankets. The room is hot. She's giving herbal teas. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is amazing. I can see how this is beneficial. Kept studying, went deeper to look at how Haitian culture sometimes use herbs for sitz bath to encourage, healing postpartum and to support any tears. And then I looked and knew at the time about yoni steaming, which a lot of Asian cultures use that. A lot of African cultures have utilized yoni steams in their healing practices. And then, of course, Black Americans, a part of any healing journey is to incorporate good, hearty food. So also just looking at the ways in which we can support women and add herbs to the food that is so nutrient dense to help us with that healing journey. So with all of that work, I took all of that knowledge. I took my training from Kappa, and I decided to really walk deeper with women, with my clients, with my friends, anybody who was willing to listen, go deeper into what it meant to actually take the time to go throughout the postpartum healing journey. And so, like Yolanda mentioned, and like you all know, if you clicked on this live, the purpose of conversation today is to share some of those practices with you. And like I said, this is a very robust conversation that I often get very excited about, but I want to leave you with like at least 5 techniques that you can utilize, whether you are a person that's supporting a birthing person, or, you're a family member, a partner, a doula yourself, or you are, embarking on this new level of motherhood. These techniques are for you, and they will support your postpartum healing journey. And if they don't, then we can have conversation about that. So without further ado, let's get started with technique number 1. And I do want to make this interactive. I'm not here to just like coach at you and, solely focused on the information. So if you have utilized any of these practices in your experience as a doula, or you've had somebody to use some of these techniques on you, please feel free to comment in the chat, or if you have any questions about anything, we will save some time at the end. So let's get started with technique number one. This is very simple, very straight to the point. It is the use of aromatherapy. Now, a lot of times when we think about aromatherapy, we think about, something smell good, something that's in the air. But, these are just concentrated versions of herbs. So we have like sage, for example, we have lavender, we have chamomile. And when using essential oils, I find that this is a great technique for someone who is, right out of the hospital and just need to really stimulate that bonding between the baby, or maybe the birthing person is, overly tired. And so with utilizing aromatherapy and essential oils that are made from herbs, we can create this atmosphere and this mood that stimulates like rest, like mother baby bonding, like chamomile, like I said, lavender. Those are some of the nighttime herbs, essential oils to use. And then in the daytime, when there's more action going on and mom may feel like she's balancing so many things or just trying to come into her body, we can put on scents like orange or peppermint, some uplifting scents that really just make you aware and just brings the senses up a little bit. And to think about how this works, just think about going into a new home, going to buy a new home. And say the realtor decides to bake cookies or have like a signature home scent. As you are going through that process, that's triggering in your mind and that's making you feel a certain type of way. And so, in the same sense, as we curate a space for our mothers to heal, we want to curate it in a way that is loving, that is gentle, and that promotes the energy that we want to uplift. So, again, essential oils, which can be used with I have all of my props here, y'all. So can be used with a diffuser. If you have FSA, you can actually get this with your FSA card. And like I said, this is also really good if you are experiencing PPMD and you just feel like you don't want to do anything and everything feels so heavy. I feel like it's so easy to just go grab some essential oils, put it in your diffuser, and just allow that to like move through you and work through you. So that's technique number one. Moving on to something that's also easy for the community to utilize, or for partners to utilize, is really utilizing fresh herbs and spices in cooking nutrient-dense meals that are prepared in a way that is actually giving the mom minerals and nutrients that she may have lost during the birthing process. As we know, there is, a lot of energy, there's a lot of blood flow, there's a lot of fluid, there's just a lot of things happening in birth. And so once you kind of like stop that process, you really do need to give your body the fuel, or, provide the birthing person the fuel to continue to heal. And like I said earlier, when we first started this conversation, when we think about postpartum, it's about going a little bit deeper than what we've been taught before. And so one way to, stimulate healing through nutrient-dense foods by adding herbs and spices is to just go to the grocery section and get like some rosemary, thyme, ginger is really good. Fiery foods. I like to talk about fiery foods a lot. It's like one of my favorites. So fiery foods are like cayenne pepper, ginger, cinnamon. And you can just add those as like an allspice to like a soup, like a hearty bean soup. You can add sage, if you're cooking any type of like meat dish. These are ways that are going to help and support the birthing person. And we don't think about it sometimes, because when we think about like herbs and healing, it seems like this like foreign thing, but it's like, no, you can actually just go to the grocery store, get some herbs and spices. And if you're cooking for somebody who you're trying to heal them, who you're trying to get the blood to flow, then incorporate some of those herbs and spices into the food. These herbs that I mentioned, the fiery herbs, are also really good with just like after labor pains. Like just think about how many muscles are utilized to, push the baby out, and just like this experience of moving around and shifting around, and your body is changing like all very fast. So you get these like labor pains, and some of those anti-inflammatory herbs and spices, like I said, ginger, for example, cayenne pepper, they just get the body moving, and they have the ability to soothe those labor pains. So that's technique number two, which is just simply adding herbs and spices to nutrient dense foods. Number three is my favorite. As you can see by all of the tea mugs behind me, I am a big advocate of herbal teas. It's something that I utilize in my day to day, and it's often something that I recommend for my clients, whether they are at the beginning of their birth journey, whether they are at the end of their reproductive journey, whatever the case may be. I always say utilize herbal teas. So the use of herbal teas just basically means taking hot water to extract the medicinal properties of herbs. And so in the postpartum healing journey, there are herbs like red raspberry, which helps the uterus to contract and really helps with that recovery process that we are aiming for. But there are also herbs like nettles that is very like iron rich, and when you taste it, it has a very earthy taste. But that just allows you to know that this is like very nutrient dense. Um, we have herbs like fenugreek and oak straw, which is beneficial for women who are looking to breastfeed to help with stimulating milk supply. And again, that mother baby bonding. So these herbs are actually working with your body, working with your hormones to continue to strengthen your relationship with your baby, strengthen your relationship with your body, allow you to be back in your body. So really quickly, there are two ways to like utilize herbal teas. I would say that if you are a beginner, make sure that you go to like a herbal apothecary, talk with the herbalist, National Black Doula Association. We do have some members who work with herbs, so there are a ton of resources out there. I just named off a few herbs just to like get you started, starting to think about how you can implement this in your day to day. But nonetheless, this is like a reusable like herbal tea bag. So teas can be used by just dropping this in hot water. This is often a lot of times what I would give to my clients, because as a busy new mom, you have to kind of like get it and go. You don't got time to be, trying to put some stuff together. But for my OG folks who know how to use, plant medicine and who love to use loose herbal teas, we also have, herbal teas that can be used in a way where you combine them and you put them in a strainer to extract the medicinal properties. And again, this can be used by a mom who is in need of healing, or it can be an act of love, an act of service, from a partner who is looking to support the birthing person. Or like I said, I utilize it all the time in my practice as a doula. So for those community birth workers who just need to, feel like they are supporting their clients deeper, this is, one of the easiest things that you can do is herbal teas. So moving right along, we just went over 3 techniques, and we have 2 more. They're kind of stepping up in the amount of effort and I guess like level that you need to be to like utilize these practices. But like I said, I feel like it's still very doable. But number 4 is a herbal sitz bath. Now, regardless of if you feel that you are a holistic person or whether you are a science person and you like the medical place, whatever, doctors, all of that, your doctor is an advocate for sitz baths 9 times out of 10. Your doula will be an advocate for sitz baths. I'm an advocate for sitz baths, and you should be too. So a herbal sitz bath specifically is, like we talked about, right after labor, sometimes there are, tears, there are pains, there are just a lot of things going on. So herbal sitz bath is a technique for moms about a week or two, consult with your provider postpartum who want to heal below the waist. That's really what it's for. And so, a herbal sitz bath is the practice of utilizing. This is kind of like a larger tea bag, a muslin bag. So this is way larger than my tea bag, which is, not even half the size of this. And so, with utilizing the herbal sitz bath, you just pack this with all of your favorite healing herbs. Like calendula is a really good herb for tears. Peppermint is a really good herb. Rose is a really good herb to help you feel grounded, to help you feel loved. And so you would just pack this bag with all of the herbs, put it in a big pot of water, allow it to boil, and then pour that solution in your bathtub. Now, again, if you are an OG, then you know how to put all of your herbs in a big old pot and you know how to strain it and get in the bath with it. And some cultures even have whole leaves that they just put in the tub. But the essence is that the water would be below the waist. And the one thing I do want to highlight about sitz bath that I think is often overlooked is that if the water is at the correct temperature, this can also be your first bonding bath with your baby. All of these herbs are safe for your baby's skin. You can take the time to, well, depending on which herbs, but a lot of the herbs that I mentioned today are safe for your skin, safe for baby skin. So these can actually be utilized for your baby's first bath. And it's a great bonding moment. Like, imagine you telling your baby, like, oh, your first bath was with mommy and we had a rose bath. Like, yeah, we really welcoming you into this space. So again, I really love herbal sitz bath, bonding time, using water, using herbs to heal below the waist. And last but not least, we have the practice of yoni steaming or vaginal steaming, more commonly known. And so, similar to a sitz bath, this is really working on that womb area, that womb space, like closing the gap here, allowing you to focus on your womb space and like what healing looks like. We know that a lot is going on in this area, and so utilizing a yoni steam is another intentional way to take time for yourself, allow herbs to heal in your womb space. And some of the herbs that I like to utilize during yoni steam, which I would recommend that for women who are postpartum at like the 5 to 6 day mark. It does help a lot with, if you're having any like burns, any stinging in that area. It just kind of like soothes everything. And you can utilize herbs like yarrow, which is antimicrobial. You can use herbs like peppermint, which helps to soothe, red raspberry, just lots of herbs. And what I really love about a yoni steam is that that's an intentional time where you can say, hey, I am feeling overwhelmed, or I feel like I want to pour some more time into myself. Let me step away for, and I know somebody's like, I can't step away. I got a newborn baby. But you should step away. You should give yourself the honor and the grace to go through a very deep healing process. So if you can find 10 to 15 minutes and step away and utilize the herbs, or ask your doula how they can incorporate that into your postpartum visits that you have with them. Maybe that's an opportunity where, your doula can really step up and help you through that process. And so with all of these techniques, of course, I do want to, put it out there that you should always be, reading and researching on your own. Always make sure that if it is something that is going to be utilized with your baby in the space that you're researching. But I love herbal remedies. It has been a part of my practice, like I said, since at least 2017. And I've heard nothing but continued positive feedback. And even long after the postpartum journey, when some of my clients are reflecting on their experience, they now have tools that they can utilize when they get into a space, later on in their motherhood journey where they need to kind of like return back to themselves. Okay, So I think I gave you all my 5 ways, 5 very simple and feasible ways to add herbal remedies into your postpartum healing journey. So before I open it up for questions, I just want to leave you all with what I reflected on earlier, which is transitioning into different aspects of your existence, whether that's going from a mother of one to a mother of two, whether that's, going from a young woman to now a mom and a wife. It requires you to take the time that you need. It requires you to go deeper than the surface level, and it requires you to have community. And so, in all of these techniques that I shared today, these were opportunities where a doula can be engaged, a partner can be engaged, or the community as a whole can be engaged. And so I hope that you all take some of these practices, and that if you know anyone who is going through the postpartum healing journey, that you talk to them about what you have learned today. And so with that, I am going to close and ask for questions. I know we have about 5 minutes left, so
Thank you so much. You did absolutely amazing.
yes.
Aubrey. I even learned some things for myself. And I would even say that like the herbs are not just for women who's just now starting to experience postpartum. It's even for like women who's probably gave birth some years ago and
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to, start a healing process and things like that. So what women don't know is it can take up to 7 years for your body to heal after
Mhm.
one child. So if your child is 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, you can still use these herbs to help with healing in your body and things like that.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. It just goes along with my point of like taking it deep. And I know sometimes, like, as Black women, especially, we feel like we have to get back to everything, we have to get back to our old lives. And it's like, no, this is an opportunity to like become another version of yourself. So,
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I am going to call on Katrine or Joy, who's going to talk about the questions in the chat. If you can look at that for me.
Okay. Okay, so I'll pin the questions in here. So, Avery, you can check out the questions on your screen.
okay.
Okay. So, one of our viewers says, or is asking, what are your top three go to herbs for postpartum healing, and how can new mothers safely incorporate them into their recovery?
I would say the top 3 herbs that come to mind for postpartum healing is one, nettles. Like I said, that's very iron rich, nutrient dense. I would say red raspberry. That's something that as a pregnant mom or expecting mom or wannabe mom that you can incorporate into your day to day. And then I would say last but not least, ladies mantle. Ladies mantle is a good safe herb. It's very good for womb health, for feminine health, and that's an easy incorporation into postpartum healing. And if you are looking to safely incorporate them and you feel like you may not have all of the experience yet, like I said, you can seek out a doula who has some knowledge or expertise in herbalism. You can also go to your local herbal shop to pick their brain about what medicinal medicines they would recommend. Or, there's a lot of hefty herbal books out there. They are very dense sometimes. But I would always recommend like having a go-to herb book in your home.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Also, there's another question. I'll pin it on the screen. Okay, so are there any common misconceptions about using remedies for postpartum care that you'd like to clear up?
Yes, I think there's so many misconceptions about utilizing herbs. I think the first one that comes to mind is oftentimes we feel like there's this like disconnect between our medical staff and our herbalists. And that, if you are focusing on like utilizing herbs in your postpartum healing or your healing journey, then, you must be like anti-medicine or, you can't associate both. But a lot of times in my experience, I have actually spoken to some doctors and midwives who would recommend herbs like fenugreek, or who would recommend, adding some ginger or cayenne pepper or something like that to food, or who recommend sitz bath. A lot of doctors will tell you to take a sitz bath. So I think that that's one misconception, is that oftentimes when you are utilizing like herbal remedies into your care, that those two things are separate. But when we talk about healing, we talk about it holistically. And so herbs are, spiritual, mental, they're, a different aspect, a different journey. But, part of your journey may be having conversations with your doctor, or a part of your journey may be, that you need to take this medication for a certain amount of time. So I think one misconception that I want to highlight is that the two can't work together. And oftentimes people just disregard herbal remedies because it seems so foreign, and they may not hear about it as much in the medical industry.
Any more questions, Katrine?
Okay. I think that's it for now. Thank you for
Okay.
answering the questions, Aubrey.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? I want to mention or just ask as well, with herbs and nursing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is it safe to take herbs? Because I think it's herbs like with meds, like you can't take certain meds
Mm-hmm.
when you're nursing. What about certain herbs when you're breastfeeding? How is that correlated as well?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I think this goes along with my point about like the misconceptions with like medicine. When you are thinking about taking a medication prescribed by your doctor, there is some research that needs to go along with that. Either your doctor is going to say, well, these two things don't, work out right. Or maybe you research and you say, hey, my doctor said that this is okay, but it is not like 100% okay, or something that I'm 100% aligned with. But it still required you to do the research, and it required your doctor to do the research, and it required, some communication between the two. And so the same thing with herbs. It's going to require you to, look online or look at there are like sources, like medical cited sources, um, information that you can depend on that tells the interaction between certain herbs and medication. Your doctor can also have conversation with you about that. And like I said, there are so many women who study herbalism deeply. The first apothecary that I went to, this woman had been studying herbalism like generations and generations of women in her lineage. So you can always go to a trusted source. There are herbs that are very safe, that you can just get day to day, that are at the local CVS, like fenugreek is one of them. Red raspberry leaf is one of them. Oat straw, which is why people always like eat a lot of oatmeal when you are trying to produce breast milk. The oat
Right.
straw and the oatmeal, they are kind of like similar plants, or
Same.
yeah, they're the same. So different parts of the plants. So, with anything, there are herbs that are definitely beneficial for breastfeeding, but with herbalism or medicine, do your research and find people that you trust to have conversations with.
Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate your
welcome.
time tonight. I appreciate you giving knowledge and education about this. I still want to remind people that if this is for educational purposes. Please consult your doctor and midwife, your pediatrician when dealing with herbs and even medicine anyway. Just like you would go with them about medicine, do the same with herbs, and make your own decision on what's best for you. We just have some announcements. We want to thank Aubrey Sunshine for giving us her time today and give you a little clap. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for being here and giving us your time. We want to do some just a couple announcements about what's coming up for this the month of April with MVDA. Next week, next Wednesday, we will have our doula training with Danae. Journey to the Doula World. It's going to be next Wednesday, April 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's about learning what it means to be a doula. If you're interested in being a doula or birth worker, you can explore some skills, some trainings to start your career, and ask all the questions that you need to ask to get started. We want to talk about April 19th, our mindfulness and meditation session, where it's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern time as well. It's an intro to mindfulness and an opportunity to prioritize your well-being. April 22nd, we are taking over with Doula's Garden. She will be showing us, giving us a look into her garden and how to get one started and even healing your body with foods, just regular and in postpartum. Practice What You Doula is April 26th, and we'll be focusing on billing and coding for insurance. If you're interested in that, please join us. And we have a co-working session April 29th where fellow doulas get together for brainstorming, asking questions. There is I think it's a morning session and an evening session. So I want to direct everybody to the website, MBDA's website at blackdoula.org. And we thank you for attending with us tonight. We thank you for taking the time to be a part of our audience. And I want you to have an amazing evening. Good night and talk to you later. Thank you.
Good night.